Hey everyone, how's it going? Today we're going to be discussing the 7 biggest electrical estimating mistakes. And we snuck a extra one in there, so see if you can find it. I'm sure Brian will mention that it's an extra one. Um, One of the experiences, or what would you call it? I guess experiences that Brian brings to the table is he has spent so much time and years really training our customers and working with electrical estimators to improve how they approach a bid and go through the whole process. And he's seen, a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad habits. He's seen a lot of good habits and a lot of good stuff as well, of course. But he's summarized some of the mistakes that he's seen recently and in the past, of course, years past, and brought that content to this webinar. So we feel like it's going to be a really good, a lot of good topics are going to be discussed. So feel free to bring up questions you might have in the YouTube chat off to the right if you're with us on YouTube Live. We'll try to get to them. If not, you could always email us at support@visioninfosoft.com and we'll do our best to answer all your questions. So be sure to like and subscribe on this video so that you can get updates when we release new videos or schedule new lives like this. We're looking at doing a lot more shorter videos throughout this year to mix in with these longer form videos. So stay tuned for that. So, hey, Brian, ready to jump into mistake number one?
That was Derek that was doing the introduction there. And then I'm doing the actual presentation there.
That's us.
All right. So as Derek said, I've been doing this work with electrical contractors now for pretty much the major part of my life. And I always am exposed to things that people do that if they had thought about them a little more, had somebody give them a little tip, maybe they wouldn't make some of these typical mistakes. So I tried to summarize some of the things that I've seen that uh, are mistakes that people make in estimating and what you can do to avoid them. One of the things I've seen over the years is people that get bogged down in minor details. Oops, wrong slide. Sorry. Estimators fall into a wide range of uh, habits or practices as far as how much detail they're looking for in an estimate. And the problem with that in some estimators, and sometimes it's actually the guys from the field who are really detail oriented, and they try to transition into estimating, they get so bogged down in the details that they miss the forest for the trees kind of a thing. They don't see some of the bigger parts of it. And when you get bogged down too much in the details, your productivity goes down. So you got to find that balance. I like to think I'm somewhere in the middle, but I've seen estimators that are far too detail oriented. I've seen estimators that aren't detail oriented enough, and they miss some things that are important. So there's a balance. Um, if you find yourself getting bogged down in the details, maybe it's time to step back, take a break, or just take a look at it and say, is that really important in the overall scheme of things? Concentrate on the big things, the the feeders, the switchgear, the lighting, the stuff that's going to make a difference in the overall estimate. Don't get too bogged down in the detail down to the level of the screw and the washer and the miscellaneous small parts and fittings that go into an estimate. That's one of the nice things about a software program. It takes care of a lot of those for you anyway. So be careful of getting bogged down in the details. Another area I've seen several times over the years is that people either don't get enough quotes or they get too many quotes. And actually, I think I see the first more often, that people are getting too many quotes. They'll get half a dozen quotes in the gear, they'll get a half a dozen quotes in the lighting, they'll get a half a dozen quotes in the lighting control, and it's kind of hard to sort them out sometimes. I don't really think you need to get too many quotes. You need enough. Probably two or three is an adequate number. Uh, but don't go overboard. You're just going to get bogged down, and then it's hard to compare too. You got supplier A, B, C, D, E, and are you really comparing apples and apples? If you've got two or three, it's a lot easier to make sure that you're comparing them side by side. So,
Brian, I have a question about that.
yep.
This might be volume related too. If you're doing a lot of jobs and a lot of bigger jobs, maybe having fewer, you would develop a better relationship too, and maybe better pricing even
Well, that
down the
is part
line.
of it, developing the relationship so you can trust the 2 or 3 suppliers that you work with the most.
Hmm.
Um, and
Right.
maybe you need to get a few more quotes to get to that point, but I know contractors that they just always get
Hmm.
5, 6, 7 quotes on everything, whether that they use that supplier ever. So, I don't think that's productive for the contractor or the supplier if you're getting too many quotes. So at some point, you just got to feel comfortable that the suppliers that have been doing a good job for you are going to continue to do a good job and work with that. Subcontracts are another thing that can bite you. Um, like if you've got a large subcontract on a fire alarm system, or you're having a subcontractor do the data work on a job, and I've seen this before where you might have a $250,000 job, and your fire alarm system or your data part of the system is uh, half that. If the subcontract is a major part of your job, then you need to get a couple of quotes. Don't rely upon one subcontractor uh, to give you a quote, because you may end up not getting a competitive quote, and you may make your own bid not competitive.
Mm.
So you really want to pay attention to subcontracts, especially if they're a major portion of your job. Don't ignore that and just get one fire alarm quote if it's a big part of the job. This is one people don't think about. If you don't budget enough time to do the estimate, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up taking shortcuts and making mistakes just because you're rushed. Make a realistic budget of your time when you take on the job. And if you're not sure how to do that, just on the next several jobs you do, just look at the number of pages and the amount of time it takes to do the actual bid, and start getting an idea whether it takes you half an hour or an hour per page. But don't be unrealistic about budgeting your time. That's going to end up in critical mistakes if you're not um, got enough time to do a, a detailed, or I'm sorry, not detailed, but a complete bid.
So don't wait till Sunday night to turn in a Monday
Yep.
morning.
And I know we're all guilty of that. Procrastination is always a challenge, but try to make a reasonable budget for your time. And if that means taking some time out of the office to work because you need to get away from the phone calls and all that, or turn off your phone, then you got to do that. So another mistake people make is not checking some of the statistics you can acquire over time, again, on previous bids. So when people ask me, what should the average cost per foot be of a certain type of building, I really can't give you too good of an example answer to that, because it depends on your company. You need to keep track of your bids to know these statistics. You can't compare them to somebody else's, but you definitely can compare them to jobs you've done previously. The things you want to track, especially the first three, are easy to do, and EBM does all these for you automatically. The total cost per foot, for example, I'll show you on the screen that it comes up on EBM.
Give a brief intro of what EBM is.
Oh, that's right. There would be people. The Electrical Bid
Yeah.
Manager is our estimating program, and this little screen here has the final totals on the job. And it might be kind of small, but down here at the bottom, it gives you the total cost per foot. So in this case, it's $18 or $19.12 a foot. Now, again, that by itself doesn't mean anything. But if you've got several jobs to compare it to, then it starts to become a viable number. So if you're bidding a job and it comes out at $8 a foot or $28 a foot, then you need to dig a little further and see if there's something you missed, if you've made some other kind of mistake. Now, the problem with using the total cost per foot is obviously costs change over time. So material costs change, labor costs change. Sometimes a better number to check is just the labor cost per foot. Again, that changes over time too, but the benefit of looking at the labor cost per foot is it takes the material out of the formula. So it doesn't matter whether you've got expensive materials on the job. It doesn't matter whether the owner is providing the lighting or the gear. If you're just looking at the labor cost per foot, it's a little more of a pure number. The best number actually is the one below it, the labor hours per foot. If you can look at the number of hours it takes to do the job per square foot, that's a pretty consistent number. It doesn't matter whether material costs are going up or down or labor costs are going up or down. If we can look at the labor cost per foot, and you can make a simple spreadsheet. I just made a part of a one here. Um, put down the square footage of the project, the cost per foot, which EBM, electrical bid manager, gives you. It gives you the labor cost per foot, and it gives you the labor hours per foot. And I would recommend doing it not only for all your jobs. This little spreadsheet is for all your jobs, but also keep one for anything else that you think is a good category, like commercial jobs versus residential versus jobs where the owner provides the lighting and or the gear. And if you have any other categories, if you've got some specialty kind of work or a little niche that you've done some work in, keep separate spreadsheets on those different types of jobs, and then you can even have a better comparison numbers. But use those statistics. I've always felt like people don't take advantage of all the work they do. They turn in a bid and never look at the job or use those statistics down the road to help them to bid on future jobs and to find out if they maybe made a mistake on their bid. So that's one of the things to look at is the cost per foot, labor cost per foot, labor hours per foot, and the material to labor ratio is another number that you can keep an eye on. Again, it's on the screen here, right here on this job. It's 0.6 hours. So 60% of the job is material, 40% of the job is labor. And again, if you're comparing it to a similar job that you've done, you'd expect that material to labor ratio to remain pretty constant over time. So that's the idea here is, use the numbers you're already generating, but keep some historical spreadsheets and go back and look at them and keep them updated. If you're doing 4 or 5 jobs bids a week, you're going to have a pretty good database after a few months. And you can always go back to the old jobs too and start developing a spreadsheet with a database of cost numbers.
Maybe we could share that spreadsheet in the YouTube description. I know it's nothing too complex, but
Sure. You mean now or?
no.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
After this,
Right.
we'll add it to the description of the YouTube video.
Okay, back to my outline here. There we go. Again, like I just mentioned, compare to similar jobs. You can't compare a medical office building to a warehouse. But if you've done other medical office buildings, if you've done schools, if you just do tenant improvement work, compare to similar jobs, then your numbers are a lot more meaningful. And again, more likely to help you catch a mistake. The owner furnished material is always one that throws a little bit of a monkey wrench in looking at the statistics because a job that requires the same amount of electrical work, uh, if the owner's providing the lighting or the gear, then the cost is obviously a lot lower. But when you compare your statistics, you probably should keep a category for owner furnished materials. Oops, wrong button there. It isn't that difficult to make major quantity input errors. If you're doing your takeoff electronically, that should eliminate part of it or most of it because when you scale something off the drawings and it comes up at 125 feet, it puts that into the program automatically. If you're doing it manually, it's a lot easier to type in the wrong numbers. But in any case, it is something you got to watch out for. So how do you avoid that? I see this all the time. People don't run the job extension. The job extension in EBM is this report. Job extension takes everything you've taken off and multiplies it by the quantity. It multiplies the quantity by the price and the labor. So if you scroll up and down the report, you might see some numbers that jump out at you. So that's one way to catch input mistakes. If for some reason you had 20,000 feet of half-inch EMT, that just won't look right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a better report that EBM can help you with is we call the item cost report. What this does is it sorts the report by the total, the highest total cost down to the lowest total cost. So this one will really jump out if there's a mistake here. If there's not something, and I don't know how much you can see of this, but like my first item is 500 MCM wire, the next one is 3/0 wire, the next one is 12/2 MC cable. Those are all things I expect to see at the top of this report. If I've got some kind of an oddball item like 10 receptacles, maybe the price is wrong. Maybe I have 1,000 receptacles and it should have been 100. So this report will kind of help you sort out the critical items by putting the ones with the highest cost at the beginning.
Yep.
So I use this all the time when somebody's looking for a mistake in a job. I run this report, and often this is where I find the mistake was an input, or maybe they changed a price or a labor unit accidentally, um, and all of a sudden it's at the top of the report. So that's the item cost report. Look at the job extension and look at the item cost report for things that just don't look right. And this one, I almost made the mistake helping a customer last week. We were doing a job that had 5 typical spaces in a warehouse, and we took off the lighting home runs for one of the spaces, and almost didn't multiply it for the other 4 spaces. It's real easy to do sometimes when you got typical spaces in a project. Don't forget to do the multiplication before you input it. That part we were doing manually. We calculated the home runs for one of the units and almost forgot to put it in for the other 4. Those little things, you just gotta make sure you're being careful and not rushing. This is the biggest thing I've always told people or warned people over the years is leaving things out is the biggest mistake you can make in an estimate. If you forget to take off something, then obviously you've got a possible major mistake. And it's the only way to avoid that, or the first way to avoid that, is to mark everything off in the drawings as you go, whether you're doing it manually or whether you're doing it electronically. I've taught so many estimating classes over the years, and I've done a lot of one-on-one training, and I'm just absolutely adamant about marking things off as you go. You've got to be able to go back at that, look at that drawing 10 minutes from now, or 10 days, or 10 months from now, and know that you didn't miss something. And the only way to do that is to mark it off. Electronically, you can use an electronic highlighter. If you're doing it manually, use a highlighter. That's really your only insurance against leaving things out, which is, always the biggest danger in doing an estimate. And just do a simple check. Make sure that you picked up all the major systems. Make sure you got your branch wiring, your feeders, your lighting, your switch gear, your site work. Just make a quick check on all the systems. It's not that hard to leave something out. Maybe you forgot that there was a site plan and you had parking lot lighting. Well, guess what? You're you're going to be in trouble if you don't pick that up and put it in your bid.
Go back to that one real quick, Brian.
Yep, there it is.
This just reminds me of what one of our customers explaining how they do things. They have, I believe it's 2 estimators, and one of the estimators always acts as like a verification person for the other one. So they go through and look through the bid to make sure that the one that created the bid didn't miss something, because it's kind of like an editor.
A second set of eyes is always
Yeah.
helpful. Even if it's just a brief review of the bid, something may jump out at them that the estimator just missed because they were almost too far into it. I think if you have a second set of eyes, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
That they might be much better at missing or seeing something you missed.
So where did you sneak the extra one in?
The typical one.
Okay.
Because I almost did it myself.
Oh,
Typicals are a great shortcut. If you can take off one part of the job and multiply it by 5 or 10, that saves you a lot of time. But if you,
Yep.
you have to actually put the total numbers in. There's nothing that's going to catch that easily.
Right. All right. So that was our 7+1 biggest mistakes. If you have any questions, I haven't seen anybody ask anything. It could be related to this or not. But anyway, I think we're about done. So I just
Yep.
wanted to mention again to please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And we're trying to do these once a month as we have for the last couple of years. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at doing more shorter form videos to sprinkle in here and there to keep things interesting so you don't have these longer form videos to watch only. And we're gonna start doing shorts, YouTube shorts again, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, or whatever it's all called. We're gonna throw them up everywhere. And if you're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, you should. I think even Twitter. Even I think we're gonna post them. We have a bunch up there already, but so look for us around town on the socials. Anything else, Brian? Any mention of your training, maybe, or?
Nope, I think that's it for today.
All right.
Oh,
Well, yeah.
yeah, we next week 2 virtual training classes. Um,
Oh,
Tuesday, I believe there's a introductory class, and Wednesday there's an advanced class. You can go to the website and get information on those, and if you're interested in signing up, you can do that too.
yep. And that's
We try to do one of
February
each of those a month.
2025. Yes, about once a month. So February
Right.
2025 is what Brian is referencing, but we do host those almost every month. Um, so go to our website because we'll always post our dates, and it's the virtual classroom, so you can join from any computer anywhere, and it's a full classroom experience, but virtually. We've sort of Brian's honed the experience since COVID. We've got it down pretty good, I believe. So hey, thanks for being here, everyone.